It's the HBS show with lesson, the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model. Yeah, Oluwa lifted me higher. Oh, now they wanna eat with me. Now they wanna drink with me. Now they see me as something. But I can't forget yesterday when they saw me as nothing. No one knows tomorrow, brother. No one knows tomorrow, sister. No one knows tomorrow, mama. No one knows tomorrow, Baba. Yeah. It's the HBS show with lesson, the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model.
Wow! It is HBS show History Behind Success. Guess who we have today on this program? A man who started ministry from the very scratch. A man who has imparted in the life of people globally. A man who loved God genuinely. Who is this man? Is a man who makes sure that whenever he sees anyone hungry, he makes everything possible to put food on the table of that individual. Who is this man? Join me as I make welcome to the program the founder of Rhema Place in Warri, talking about Bishop EMMANUEL to the program.
It's the HBS show with lesson, the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model.
Wow, Bishop, thank you so much for joining us on the program. You're looking so handsome and younger. What's the secret?
Well, I don't know what to say about that, but I know that God is faithful. God is faithful. I'm a young man. I'm not an old man yet, so I'm still young.
All right, so tell us, how was your growing up life, the schools you attended, and your family background?
I started schooling from what they now call KG. Mine was called Gary School. Yeah. And it was for 1 year in my village. and that's at Utako in Uromi, under Eastern Northeast LGA in Edo State. So I attended Gary School, where we had few of us, children, and we used our village church as a venue for that school. And after 1 year, I'm happy to announce that I came first position. I was the best student in that school. Thereafter, I entered the primary school, and of course spent 6 years as usual. And after primary school, I started the grammar school, secondary school, where I did my year 1 in Agba Grammar School, Uromi, and I came to Warri to start class 2 to 5 in Owia Grammar School, in Owia via Warri here. Thereafter, I stayed some years at home and then gained admission to College of Education, Warri, where I spent 4 days because I wasn't happy with the admission. And I was expecting my admission from ECBOMA, and after 4 days, I left for ECBOMA when admission in ECBOMA was through. And I remember I delayed my school fees in College of Education, Warri, and I paid acceptance fee of 50 naira to secure the admission, you know. And when the ECBOMA admission came through, I went to ECBOMA, where I studied political science. Yeah.
Wow. I want to take you back to your first school. You called it Gary School.
Yes.
So why is it called Gary? Were they sharing Gary for you?
Well, they didn't share Gary for us, but I remember even though they didn't share Gary for us, some of us would put Gary in our pockets while going to school. But that wasn't why it was called Gary School. It was called Gary School. Some were called Akara School. Some it's just a play school, okay. You know, pre-nursery. What we call it now is pre-nursery. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So, tell us about your youthful age. Is it that you were born with a golden spoon, or you were born with a wooden spoon?
Wow. I usually preach that some were born with a golden spoon in their mouth, some with a silver spoon, and yes, some with plastic spoon, and then some with wooden spoon. But I think me, I was born with a chewing stick in my mouth. You know, my father had 2 wives, so it was a polygamous setting. My mother, being the first wife, had 5 children. 4 died at tender ages, and then the other woman, my mother's maid, had about 11. So, growing up in such a polygamous setting, my father was basically a farmer and a hunter, while my mother traded in Gary stuff. So growing up was, we had enough food to eat because my father was a big time farmer. So I cannot say we were really poor because there was enough food
in the house.
Yeah, and then my father was also able to pay our school fees, primary and secondary. Yeah.
Okay. So what are the challenges you faced during those times, and how were you able to overcome them?
One of the challenges I faced those times is education was not really too valued, you know, but I escaped that crisis because my elder brother and my elder sister, they pushed that we must go to school. If not, we were born into farming, and then I started hunting also with my father. So with a stroke of favor, I escaped the crisis of not being educated. But thank God, that was one of the challenges. And then number 2 challenge was, You know, your environment will challenge you, either positively or negatively.
That's true.
But growing up in the village, there was no such challenges that will provoke one's anger to go forward in life. We were only challenged by what we saw around us, and that wasn't enough. And then you have this challenge of many children growing up together. You are afraid of being poisoned. You are afraid of being given witchcraft. So, for example, I was told, don't eat rabbit, don't eat bitter cola, don't eat cola, don't eat this, and don't eat coconuts. And then when I grew up, I asked my mother, why did you say you don't eat some of these things? She said, nothing really. I told you forbade them so that you'll be disciplined, because those are avenues of contracting witchcraft. So we're just told not to eat those things so that we'll be disciplined enough not to, be poisoned, So those are some of the challenges we faced.
Okay, so did you do any menial job?
Yes, that was after secondary school. After secondary school, I spent about 3 years at home before my admission came. And why those years lasted? Well, I cleared the bush for farming, for people, for money.
Wow.
And I did security jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you go to DSC, those white houses and red houses, before they were given out, we were the ones that secured them. And guess how much my salary was? I was paid 200 naira. Monthly. 12 hours job. If you're on night duty, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. If you're on day duty, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 200 naira. And then I got a better job after some time to work in the catering department of Delta Steel Company under S.G. Oba, who was handling the contract then. And I was paid 150 naira. Now, I said it was a better job because I could eat twice a day while on duty for free. So there was no hunger anymore. I stayed with my elder brother, who died last year, and he made life easy for us. He did his best. But you see, the comfort wasn't really there. So when I got this job where I could eat twice a day, I saw it as a better job, and I moved in there. It was from there I gained admission to higher institution.
Okay. You said you were in the village. So what brought you to town, as in what brought you to Warri?
In our days, living a communal life, when the older ones grow up, they will help the younger generation. So my brother felt I should leave the village and come and school in the city. So he was the one that invited me to Warri, and I left the village to come and continue my schooling in the city.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. During your university days, did you still do any part-time job to make sure that money is flowing in your hands? And
Yes, I did. That was during ASU strike, when Professor Jega was ASU chairman. We were home for about nine months. And during those 9 months, I decided to do some menial jobs. One thing I did was, in collaboration with a friend, we made cellophanes. We went to a bar, bought the raw materials. Somebody constructed a machine for us. We were making cellophanes to sell to shops. And then I also would go to Benin, buy Bibles, buy stickers, buy Christian write-ups, and go from place to place to sell. And it helped me. So when I was going to school, those times, I had enough money to take to school with me. But while at school, I didn't do any menial job. In fact, I was so occupied with Christian activities that there was no time for that.
Okay. So tell us, when did you started ministry and what led to that?
A very big one. I got born again by the grace of God. Well, I was born into a Baptist family. And the only church in our village then was a Baptist church, Calvary Baptist Church. And it was brought to the village in 1956 by Reverend Dr. P.O. Ebomiele, who was a missionary in the Baptist Convention, Nigeria. And we were born into that church, but I wasn't born again. And when I came to Warri, I started attending Church of God Mission. This was in 1984, and I got born again. That 1984. And I started serving God with so much zeal. I just loved God. Started singing in the choir, doing youth ministry, and then precisely in 1988, I got a call to ministry. And it's been a wonderful experience, I must confess. Until today, tomorrow, I have no regrets.
Okay. All right, in case you are just joining us, it is HBS show, History Behind Success, and my guest on the program is Bishop EMMANUEL Ufa, the founder of Rhema. Please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the HBS show with lesson the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model. It's the HBS show with lesson the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model.
Good to know that you're still there, you're still on the program HBS show, History Behind Success, and our guest on the program is Bishop EMMANUEL Ufa. So before the break, you're telling us on how you started ministry and all of that and how you got born again years back. So how do you prepare for ministry?
After I got born again in 1984, like I said, I had a call to ministry in 1988. And that same year, there's this fellowship, youth fellowship in DSC, that Delta Steel Company Township, that I co-founded with some of my colleagues. We call it CROM, Christian Revival Movement. That was on the 3rd of December, 1988. And we piloted the affairs of that ministry until I went to school in 1991 to 92 session. And then going to campus, by the grace of God, I was already very vibrant. And I, as a Baptist member, I joined the Baptist Student Fellowship in Ambrose Halley University, Ekpoma. And that same year, I was elected the president of the fellowship on campus. And I was elected the president of Bendel Conference. That is all the fellowships in churches and campuses in Bendel State. And I was also an officer at the national level at the same time. At the same time also, I was made to pastor a Baptist church outside campus as a lay leader. So with all these responsibilities, preparations for ministry actually started. So I was busy outside campus, I was busy on campus, and I was busy everywhere. At the same time, I was also the secretary to the Joint Christian Fellowship on campus, comprising all the fellowships on campus. So I was really busy. And then thereafter, I graduated in 1996-97 session, and I went for youth service in Kefi, Nasarawa State. On getting to Kefi, we were the first couples that actually went to Kefi, Nasarawa State as a new state then. We did our orientation in Kubwa, Abuja, and then we were drafted to Kefi, Nasarawa State. And you know, the NCCF, Nigeria Christian Couples Fellowship, I was the zonal leader in Kefi. And then we left youth service in 1998. And immediately I wanted to go to the Baptist Seminary at Bomosho, but some things happened. I was not admitted. And then I joined the Soul Harvesters Ministries in Warri, where I had been for 10 years as a volunteer evangelist. You know, I joined them in 88, and this was now 98.
Yes, 10 years.
10 years. So they saw the call of God in my life, and I joined them as a full-time minister in Soul Harvesters Ministries, Warri. And then in 2000, that was 98 now. Then 1999, I was posted to Port Harcourt to start a branch of the ministry, which I successfully did in collaboration with my assistant pastor. And then in the year 2001, I started having this burden to come back to the Baptist. And that was how in 2001, I came back to the Baptist and attended the Baptist Theological Seminary, ECU, in Delta State, where I had my BTH. I did 3 years because I already had a degree in secular school. So I did BTH, which is Bachelor in Theology. And then went back to Abraka again for a master's program in religion. So these were all preparations for ministry. And then after graduating, before I graduated from the seminary, the Estate Baptist Church, Warri, called me to be their pastor in 2002 as a student. And I resigned from the Soul Harvesters Ministries and then joined the ministry of the Nigeria Baptist Convention in Estate Baptist Church, Warri, where I pastored from 2002 to 2010. That's 8 years, 2 months, precisely. And then in 2009, the Lord began to speak to me that my job over there was winding up. And I said, Lord, to where? And the voice, God seemed to be silent at that point. But when I heard that voice on that Sunday after service, I approached a member of the church and I said, please, can I use your guest room to have some prayer time? And she said, no problem. But I didn't have time to do that. So luckily, I traveled to the UK August of that year. So after preaching in London and Oxford, I had enough time to pray. So I went to my sister's house in Oxford and I spent time to pray. That was where I confirmed the fact that my time in the Baptist denomination was actually winding up. So if my time here is winding up, where am I going? The Baptist structure is such that it's a core system, we don't do transfer. So when you feel that your ministry in a particular location is over, you can look for another place to go. And that was what I had in mind, but the Lord spoke when I came back from that trip in the UK. I was going to DSC, driving, and I was climbing Udu Bridge when God spoke to me. I said, start a new work.
Wow.
The thing hit me everywhere. I don't have money. I don't have sponsors. How do I start a new work? But he spoke, and I believed him. And if God speaks, he will give the wherewithal to back up his voice. That was what gave me the strength, the motivation to start what we today call Rhema Ministries. I resigned from the Baptist denomination precisely 29th of August 2010. And this ministry, Rhema Ministries, started the following Sunday, 5th of September 2010. And by last September 2021, we were 11 years. By September this year, we shall be 12 by the grace of God.
Wow. That
That is the story of my ministry so far.
Wow. So tell us about A Night with Jesus. I believe you started A Night with Jesus when you were still in the Baptist
Sure.
church. Tell us about A Night.
Okay. Before I ever got engaged with the Soul Harvesters Ministries, I had this vision. A vision where people will gather from all over for a night of prayers, a night of the word, a night of miracles, signs, and wonders. That vision had been in me for quite some time before I joined the Soul Harvesters Ministries. So when I resigned from there and I was coming to resume in Estate Baptist Church, DDPA, Airport Road, Efru, I made up my mind it was going to be one of the programs I was going to launch as I resume. So we resume in Estate Baptist Church June 8th. That's my wife's birthday. June 8th, 2002. And that same week, we had a council meeting. And I announced it. I told them there's a vision I want to birth here. It's an all night. And it's called A Night with Jesus. And they told me, we have our all night, third Friday of the month. They had a name for it. And I said, well, that's okay. And they told me that in their all night, they had tea break. I said, tea break? They said, yeah. And I said, how many teacups do you have? They said about 30. So I laughed. We all laughed together. I said, well, there will be no need for tea break in the night with Jesus because, one, you will not have enough teacups to give people tea.
Yes.
And then two, the night will be too hot. You will not even have time to drink tea. You know? So in that meeting, we agreed to advertise it on DRO TV. Then only GFM was in Warri as a radio station. So we advertised on DRO TV, and the first one was around 20th of June 2002. And when they saw the crowd, they said, no, there's no need for tea break, you know? And that was the beginning of a night with Jesus.
Wow.
And this year, we are 20 years,
Wow.
still counting by the grace of God.
Wow. That's a good one. So tell us, how did you meet your wife?
How I met my wife on campus. On campus. Well, it's a very funny story. I was president of the Baptist Student Fellowship, like I mentioned earlier. And I stayed in a compound off campus. And one day, I saw a lady, a girl. She was hanging clothes outside. And then she was singing songs, Panam Pasipal songs. And she was going from one song to another. And it moved me in my room. So I raised the curtain. I said, who is singing these songs? And I saw her. I said, hello. And she said, good afternoon, sir. I said, yeah, good afternoon. Please, can you see me when you are through? He said, okay, sir. She didn't wait until she was through. She came immediately. And I said, what's your name? She said, my name is Stephanie. What's your department? And she said, Agric Economics and Extension Services. I said, what level are you? She said she was in year 1.
What year was you then?
I was in year 3. She was in year 1. Because she did pre-degree.
Okay.
After pre-degree year 1. So I was in year 3. And I said, okay, thank you. God bless you. I didn't know she was even worshiping the Baptist church where I pastor as a student. She later told me that when I told her, okay, thank you, God bless you, she was not happy. She thought I called her to know her and all that. But she now said, all these fellowship leaders on campus, this is how they behave, you know, and she left. And then I started admiring her. We used to use one pit toilet in the compound. When I'm in the pit toilet, it's covered with zincs. There is a hole. Through the hole, I'll be looking at her. She's washing her dishes, and I will just be admiring her. And I didn't know she would be my wife, honestly. But I liked her. She loved God. She was serious with academics. She was disciplined, quiet, serious in church. And I felt I had found a wife. So at the end of the semester, I told her, I said, this is my feeling towards you. Go and pray. If in 6 months we have this mutual feeling for each other, then we will take it to the next level. And after 6 months, I called her again. The feeling I told you I had for you is intact. What about you? She said, mutual. Then I proposed to her.
Wow.
After proposing to her, we courted for 3 years exactly and got married on the 4th of December, 1999.
Wow.
So this last December, we were 22 years in marriage.
Wow. So tell us about Rhema Place. how is the ministry moving, and also how have you been able to touch the lives of people in different ways?
The Bible says in Job chapter 8, verse 7, it said, though your beginning were small, yet your latter end should greatly increase. I believe it started small, and that was how we started Rhema Place. When we were to start, we had to look for a place to rent, which we rented. We rented this place. It was a block industry that was happening here, and through some individuals that are influential, we got this place and we rented it, and we started ministry here. I remember the very first service, which was the 5th of September 2010. I invited friends, invited fathers. So when this place was packed full, I knew that wasn't a ministry, And I remember attendance that day was 257, and the offering was 68,000 naira, 10 naira. How do I call that? 68,000, 10 naira. That was our offering that day. So I knew they were all my friends, they were colleagues. The following Sunday, of course, the attendance dropped. And I knew that we were into begin a new work. Few people followed us from the Baptist denomination, I can't deny that, but it was tough beginning Rhema Place Ministries. And coincidentally, A Night with Jesus used to be third Friday of the month. Then when we left the Baptists, they took that third Friday. So I had to come to second Friday. When we started, second Friday was the following week. So it was like a crisis for me because there was no money. How do we start without money? But eventually, somebody gave us chairs free of charge as a seed. The chairs we were given were 400 plus 204. That's 500 plus 204, That's about 700 plus. Then the women fellowship in the Baptist church gave us 20 plastic chairs. So we had 700 plus chairs in the hall. And then we advertised A Night with Jesus. For the first time in Rhema Place. Yours truly, the place was packed full. At 12 midnight, there was no chair. So we had to go out to hire more chairs. And then the services started. I just knew that. My confidence was God called me. He gave me this instruction to start a new ministry, and He was going to back me up. So I didn't have any form of doubt. Someone even told me, are you sure you're not going to put your wife and children in hunger? And I said, what I hear is bigger than what you are telling me now. If God has called me, He will prove Himself in my life, and He will make things happen. And by the grace of God, we started, and to His glory and praise, He has not disappointed us. He has been very faithful and dependable. That was how Rhema Place started. My wife and I remember somebody staying with us, my niece asked me, she said, no, my wife asked me, she said, what if nobody comes the first day of service? I said, you are there, our 3 children are there, that's already a congregation. So if nobody comes, we will start anyhow. But to God be the glory, people came. You see, the work of the ministry is a work of faith. Minus faith, there's no ministry. Any genuine man of God that has gone a bit far, and he tells you it has always been rosy from the beginning, that testimony is not complete. There must be an aspect of faith where you expect God to do the impossible and he doesn't disappoint. And even when you expect him to do the impossible and what you're expecting does not happen, that is where the test of faith comes in. That is where you actually prove to God that he called you. So the absence of favor is not a proof that you are not called. It's a proof that you are even called. And then you, with resilience and the message of God, you pull through. In every ministry, there is a time to sow. That time of sowing, see, a farmer that is planting is sweating. He doesn't have time to laugh. And even now, I still feel we are still sowing. We are still sowing. By the grace of God, this building is not completed yet. We are still sowing. But you see, a time comes in ministry. It's like the eagle. The eagle takes off and flaps the wings. But a time comes when the eagle has gone so far into the skies, the wings are spread. That is when it begins to soar. So we are still flapping our wings by the grace of God, because in ministry, nobody arrives until you make heaven.
Wow.
So we are still coming up.
Okay. So this place is now Rhema Place
Property.
permanent site.
Oh yes, by the grace of God. As time went on, we now bought a land somewhere in Kosini, Warri, off Airport Road, because the man that owned this place said he will not sell. And then we laid a foundation over there. That land is swampy.
Okay.
I remember the water got to my chest. And when we bulldozed the land, we saw 7 pythons
On the land.
on the land as we were bulldozing it. And then we killed one. The one we killed, the length of the python was from here to those bags, without exaggeration. And I remember the man that drove the swamp boogie said we should give him the snake to go and take care of it. So we gave it to him. What am I talking about? It was a forest. So after laying foundation, the owner of this place then sent a message that he was willing to sell. What? We had spent money over there,
yes.
spent about 10 million to lay a foundation. The foundation we did not see because it was inside water. What do? We had a meeting with my people, and we considered it's still better here, because we had spent 5 years here. We had been known here, better proximity here. This place is more of in the city. The other side is off. Though this place is smaller, we bought an acre there. A plot of 100 by 100 in 4 places. But here is just a small place. But we consider that it was still better we came here. So we rallied round and we paid for the land. And you can be sure that land here is not shishi.
It's not for small boys.
But God helped us. God helped us. We bought the land, and then we felt we needed more land. So we approached my neighbor, and she gave us where the office complex is now behind us.
Okay.
So we combined both together. So that we are, by the grace of God, we now built a temporary structure which we demolished March 2018. And on the 2nd of April, we laid the foundation of this edifice. And so far, the Lord has helped us.
Wow.
Ebenezer.
All right, thank you so much. During our discussion, you said you like starting small. If you look at our youth of today, most of them don't want to start small. They just want to make it big, wake up overnight to become a big boy or a big girl. What is your word of advice to our youth out there for them to be focused and be determined in whatever good thing they are doing?
Thank you so much, Blessing. Before I respond to that, there was a question you asked that I have not responded to. How have we affected lives and our society? I believe that the church is a small nation. Families make up the church. Families make up the nation. So if we are going to affect the nation, the society, let it start from the church. So in Rhema Place, by the grace of God, we are involved in a lot of activities that are life-touching and society impactful. What do I mean? Our slogan is Rhema Place, touching lives and winning nations. By that slogan is self-explanatory. We see how we can make life easier for the society where we live. And one of the ways we do that is, one, we go out for evangelism, and we tell people about Jesus. So we have the evangelism arm that is headed by a pastor. And then we also have a widows empowerment program, where we empower widows and widowers with gifts, starter packs. We establish business for them. We give out machines, grinding machines. We establish business for some of them. And we also help the less privileged establish businesses in whatever we can. And additionally, we also have our medical outreach. By the grace of God, God has blessed us with a very viable medical department where we have doctors, pharmacists, a lot of nurses, lab technicians, and so on and so forth. That department, God has used that department to reach out to lives, believers and unbelievers alike. Even Muslims come. If the worshippers come, we don't discriminate. We have qualified doctors among us, many of them. We have pharmacists among us. We have nurses, nurses of high reputations who work in government hospitals under the HMB. It's for free. And by the grace of God, we have done that over the years. And it has really touched lives. It has won nations for Christ. And then again, we have our youth department who go out once in a while to touch communities. Sometimes they clean environments. Sometimes we take care of the markets through market evangelism. And then all that, we do all that. And then also we have our welfare department who take care of the less privileged. We have foodstuff, we have clothes that we distribute to people who cannot afford them. And by so doing, we have been able to affect a lot of lives, both within and outside the country. Yeah, you said there are many youths today who just want to grow overnight and become the big boys in society. It's unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. My advice for youths is there is no economic tree that grows overnight. If you plant a tree today, it takes time to grow into maturity and then begin to bear fruit. There is no, if you ask those that have made it in society, ask them questions, how they got to where they are today, they will tell you their stories. People should understand that behind every glory, there is a story. That story is not overnight. It takes years to mature. They used to say to become a man is not a day job. It's true. It's very true. So you should know that whatever they want to become tomorrow, they should work towards it. They should not take education for granted. They should not take, if you cannot go to school, learn a craft. Learn a job that will put food on your table tomorrow. Prepare for tomorrow. If you don't prepare for tomorrow, when you get to your tomorrow, you'll be disappointed. So you should know that every tomorrow is prepared for today. If you don't prepare, that tomorrow will wait for you to be wasted. So we should all know that preparation takes time. It takes energy. takes discipline. It takes all you got to prepare for tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Bishop. Thank you so much for your time on this program. Your tomorrow starts today. You start the preparation today. And he also said that behind every glory, there's a story to tell. We've come to the end of the program, HBS show. No doubt you had a swell time with Bishop Emmanuel Ufa, the founder of Rhema Place here in Warri. I am Blessing of Fomio. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, HBS Show with Blessing. Do it again next week.
It's the HBS show with Blessing, the screen goddess. History behind success of your role model.